So you just picked up your first roll of film, or maybe you're shopping for one, and you keep seeing numbers like ISO 200, 400, 800, and nobody's actually explained what any of it means. If that's you, this video is for you. Today we're diving into ISO, also known as film speed, and I'm breaking it down for both 35mm film cameras and instant cameras like your Fujifilm Instax and your Polaroid. Because they actually work a little differently, I want to make sure you walk away knowing exactly what to do when you're standing in the film aisle trying to decide what to buy. Let's jump in. Alright, so before we talk about what ISO is, let me tell you why it matters. On a digital camera, you can change your ISO whenever you want. Beginning, mid-shoot, between shots, no problem. But on a film camera, you're locked in. Whatever ISO you loaded into that camera is what you've got for the entire roll. That's usually 24 to 36 shots. So, choosing the right film speed before you load your camera is actually one of the most important decisions you'll make before a shoot. And if you're like me, when I first started shooting film, I just grabbed whatever was on the shelf and hope for the best. In this video, I'm going to try to help you avoid that. Alright, so what is ISO? Simply put, ISO is your film's sensitivity to light. That's it. The higher the number, the more sensitive your film is to light. Think of it like this. Low or slow ISO film is like someone who needs a really bright room to read. High or fast ISO film is like someone who can read in a darker room. Here's what that looks like in practice. ISO 100 or 200 is your slow or low film. It needs a lot of light to get a good exposure, so it's perfect for bright, sunny outdoor days. And it gives you really clean, sharp photos with minimal grain. ISO 400 is your middle ground. It's the most versatile option. It works outdoors and indoors with decent light. This is the film I almost always recommend to beginners starting out. Finally, we have ISO 800, 600, or 3200. That's your fast or high ISO film. It's much more sensitive to light, so it's great for low light situations like indoor events, overcast days, shooting at dusk. The trade-off is the grain. However, depending on your taste, the grain can actually look really beautiful and intentional. Now, here's something really important to remember. ISO is set by the film itself and not the camera. Your film camera may read the DX code, those little silver and black squares on the side of the film canister, and automatically adjust to match. Most modern 35mm cameras do this for you. Think cameras from like the mid to late 1980s and on. Some older cameras have an ISO dial you'll need to set yourself. So when you're buying film, the ISO number on the box is telling you how much light that film needs. Now let's talk specifically about 35mm cameras. So the big rule here is you're committing to one ISO for the entire roll. That's why I always say, before you load, think about where you're shooting for that roll. Going to a birthday party indoors, ISO 800. Going to the beach on a sunny afternoon, probably ISO 100 or 200. Hiking in mixed lighting situation, ISO 400 might just be your best friend. Again, it's one of the most forgiving films for unpredictable conditions. Now, there is a more advanced technique called pushing film, where you shoot a lower ISO film at a higher exposure setting and compensate in development. It's a whole topic on its own, and if you want me to cover it, drop a comment below. But for now, let's keep it simple and just match your ISO to your lighting and you'll be in great shape. One more thing for anyone developing their film at home. Your film's ISO also affects your development times. Higher ISO films can be a bit more sensitive during development, but like with the whole pushing film idea, that's a topic for another day. Real quick, if this is making sense and you're finding it helpful, go ahead and drop a like on the video. It really helps more beginners find this content. And if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Okay, on to instant cameras. So with instant cameras, like your Instax Mini or your Wide or your Polaroid 600 or I-type, the ISO is also already built into the film pack. You don't get to choose it, you don't get to set it. It's done for you. The big difference between film and instant is that you can't push your instant film. It develops how it develops, instantly. So here's a quick breakdown. Fuji Instax film is set to ISO 800. It's designed for both low to medium light, which is why they do well at indoor parties and events. The higher ISO is one of the reasons I think Instax film is great for beginners. It allows you to get good shots both outdoors and indoors. However, I would recommend avoiding shooting in direct, harsh sunlight where that high ISO can cause overexposure. The higher ISO film also makes it a bit more forgiving in not so great lighting environments. Polaroid 600 and I-type film are both set to ISO 640. Compared to Instax, Polaroid is less sensitive to light, so you want decent light for the best results. Polaroid does also offer a 670 film, which has an ISO even lower at an ISO of 160. This film needs a lot of light, but it's great for bright sunny days. Now, because the ISO is fixed, your instant camera's built-in light meter handles exposure automatically. So your camera's doing the heavy lifting for you, adjusting the shutter speed and the aperture to match the lighting, which is actually one of the things I love about instant cameras for beginners. Less to think about, and you can just kind of point and shoot. But there are some instant cameras that give you a bit of manual control. So if you have, say, the Lomo wide glass or a Polaroid Now Plus Gen 3, they have an exposure compensation option. That lets you make your photo brighter or darker. Now, that's not technically changing the ISO, but achieves a similar effect by controlling how much light hits the film. Tell me in the comments below, which instant camera are you shooting with? I'm always curious whether you're Team Instax or Team Polaroid. Okay, let's pull this all together. How do you choose the right ISO? Like I've said before, I have a simple rule. You want to make your ISO match your lighting. So again, bright outdoor light, ISO 100 to 200 for your film camera. For your instant cameras, your ISO is already set. Just make sure you're not shooting directly into the sun. And if you have it, make sure to use that exposure compensation dial if your photos are getting blown out. In mixed lighting situations, partly cloudy, indoors near windows, golden hour, ISO 400. I recommend this as your go-to film ISO if you're just starting out with 35mm film. And then finally, for low light situations like dim rooms, indoor events, evening, ISO 800 or higher for your film cameras. Again, for your instant cameras, you kind of have a set ISO, so I definitely recommend using a flash if you have it. At ISO 640 or 800, your camera is going to need some extra light to expose the frame properly, especially if there's no natural light in the room. For instant cameras, so I'd recommend using Instax over Polaroid if you're going to be shooting a lot of indoor work or dim low light work. If I had to give a specific film recommendation to someone buying their very first roll of 35mm film, I'd recommend checking out the Kodak Ultra Max 400 or Fujifilm 400. Both are relatively affordable, have been pretty easy to find in stores in the US, and can be really forgiving for beginners learning the basics. For your instant shooters, your film choice is already kind of made for you, which actually makes things a little bit easier. Just pay attention to your light, use a flash when it gets dark, and you're going to be fine. Again, if you know you're going to shoot more indoor or in dim lit areas, maybe consider getting an Instax camera. If you're going to be shooting more outside or bright, then maybe Polaroid might be for you. Let's recap. ISO is your film's sensitivity to light. Lower or slower ISO means less sensitive. It's better in bright lights and it's cleaner and gives you a little less grain. Higher or faster ISO means more sensitive, which is better in low light, but it does give you more grain. On 35mm cameras, ISO is set by the film you load. You're locked into it for the whole roll. Now, some cameras have a manual ISO dial, and yes, you can change it, but it won't change the actual ISO of the film itself. What it does is tell the camera to meter at a different speed. Again, that's actually kind of the beginning of the technique called pushing film, but like I said, if you're interested in me covering that, let me know in the comments below. On instant cameras, ISO is fixed by the film pack, like with the 35mm film, and in most off-the-shelf instant cameras, there is no ISO dial for you to change. Your camera handles the exposure automatically, but knowing the ISO helps you understand why your photos look the way they do in different lighting situations. And like I said before, you can also use your flash to kind of help compensate if you're shooting in darker areas. The best starting point for beginners, again, ISO 400 for 35mm film. For instant cameras, I recommend starting with Instax because the film has a higher ISO. Remember, don't be afraid to use your flash when the light gets low and let the camera do the rest. ISO doesn't have to be confusing. Once it clicks, it just becomes a part of how you think about every shot, before you even raise your camera to your eye. If you have any questions about anything I've covered today, or if you want me to do a deeper dive on pushing film, exposure triangles, or any of the other film basics, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, keep practicing, keep having fun, and I'll see you in the next video.